Yeah.
That blood was sampled multiple times, and every time it came back with the same results. And to accommodate this screaming and hand-waving of it's not his blood, they did a DNA test on it, and it's a I gotta look at this number because there's so many digits. It's a 99.9997% match to his mother, which means
so in other words,
his
maybe it's
blood.
his blood.
So it's just his mom's blood.
Yeah.
I say it's his blood, although if I want to get in bed with it's the conspiracy, something's going on. Okay, he went out, he had way too much to drink, he passed out, and somebody took a vial of his blood.
Yeah.
I don't say that's what happened, but if we're going to fall into that camp, that's the next logical step.
That's
after you find out it's a genetic match.
That's a pretty just amazing case of planning there too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's why
like positioning your Fiat Uno in the tunnel.
That falls
it's
back
amazing. It's
into
remarkable.
the MI6 involvement, which we've already kind of blasted apart.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that I do think though that there is the what can I say? There's a compromised position, which is that he might not have been falling down drunk, but in the situation that they were in a dangerous tunnel that had these nasty columns in the middle that you could pile into. He lost control, which he can even do sober.
Yeah.
And his reflexes were a little dulled by alcohol, and boom, next thing you know, big time wreck.
Yeah.
He obviously was not sober.
Well, I'm not saying he was sober, but I'm amazed that he was 3 times over the limit.
Yeah.
Because, Joe, we know the
like
same people who have walked out of the bar and fallen on their face drunk, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
Holy hell, how did you drink that much that fast?
Yeah.
It's, from a physiological standpoint, that, to me, the people I'm thinking of, that is a long-term problem.
Sure.
Yeah.
You guys ready for the next final?
Let's
talk about another one. Yeah.
Theory fun. Absolutely. Let's have it.
This one is pretty homegrown, and I think I might be the only one in this room who likes this theory at all. We'll go down it.
I'll put my hat on it.
Yeah. This theory, I started to think about. We've been researching this episode for a number of weeks now, but
Lord, yes.
Last week we talked about Sneha Phillips, and Steve brought forward the theory that maybe her husband did it.
Oh, yeah.
And that got me thinking, what about Mohammed Al-Fayed?
Because he's the only one making all of the claims.
170 some odd claims. Right? So either you have somebody who's proud of the fact that his oldest son was dating Princess Diana, or you have somebody who is trying desperately to shine the light literally anywhere but himself. So
he was ashamed, essentially.
Maybe not ashamed, maybe trying to cover something up.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And so he had them murdered?
It's possible, right?
Yeah.
Mohammed Al-Fayed's history is a bit weird. We mentioned that he's close with an arms dealer in Dubai.
Yeah, true
right?
that.
He's a very ambitious businessman. He was the biggest person who was involved with the Cash for Questions scandal.
Oh, yeah, this was
which you're going to have to Google if you're like really, really interested, but the Cliff Notes quick version is that Al-Fayed bribed, through a third party, lots of members of parliament to ask parliamentary questions, which are apparently like a huge deal. And it was like a pretty huge scandal that broke in 1994 in Britain. One of Al-Fayed's claims for one of the 170 some odd claims was that he didn't think that anybody wanted to see Diana dead, but instead that she died after a plan to frighten her had gone wrong. A plan to scare her into breaking up with Dodi.
So they put on like white bed sheets and pretended to be ghosts.
No, I think the fear was, let's have her be in a car accident, and she would think, oh my gosh, something's gone wrong. I don't know. I don't understand necessarily.
That's the first thing when I get in a near miss. I think I got to break up with her.
This is the reason.
Yeah, I know.
But I guess we'll put a little bit of perspective on this. We've kind of skirted around the issue, but Diana was a member of the Church of England, Islamic religion. Diana was kind of a strong, independent woman, though she was maybe not the smartest of the women. And she did have 2 sons, and one of which was going to eventually be the heir to the throne.
Yeah, he was in line.
England. He was in
Both
solid
of her
line.
sons are in line.
One more than the other.
Yes. But both are in.
They are. Dodi was Al-Fayed's firstborn son, so he would have been kind of the heir to his fortune. Even if Diana wasn't pregnant, the idea of her raising Dodi's potential children could have been upsetting to Al-Fayed for whatever reason.
The flip side of... Do you want to get into the flip side of that?
Sure.
Okay, so this is one of the documentaries that I watched that I'm pretty sure was funded by Al-Fayed.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
I looked through all the credits and very conveniently I didn't find his name, but it really seems like all of the internal interviews... Okay. Short version is... The opposite is true. Diana has 2 sons that are part of the Church of England and in line for the throne of Britain. So, what a terrible thing if suddenly they have a half-sibling who is Islamic.
Yeah.
And could potentially have an influence on them.
Yeah, and I don't think, to be fair, none of us are saying that.
No, I think
We're
that
just
both of
people.
those are ludicrous.
I agree, yeah.
But
Yeah.
So here's a fun fact about Dodi Fayed that I know I mentioned to you guys before we started recording,
I love
and
this.
both of the shock on both of your faces was awesome. Dodi, he was actually engaged already when he was dating Diana. We didn't mention that, did we? We didn't.
No, I don't think we mentioned that.
Yeah,
before.
he was engaged
she's not dating a gold digger.
to an American model named Kelly Fisher. He had, in fact, purchased a house for them in Malibu and proposed like a couple months before he started dating Diana. He denied that he was dating Diana to Fisher over the phone. She actually has recordings of this because she felt really jilted and she was going to sue him. So she called him to confront him about it and recorded the phone conversation. And on it, he vehemently was like, no, we're not dating. We're just friends. We're not dating at all. Which is what you would say to your girlfriend, right? If she found out about your other girlfriend.
But that also explains the ring. The ring that everything
purchased.
says.
Yeah.
Dodi went to the ring, the jewelry store, and he was getting this ring for Diana to propose and set up their engagement.
Think it wasn't for Diana?
I don't think it was for Diana. I think it was for her.
Yeah, for Fisher.
Yeah, because it was a diamond encrusted, freaking huge, obscene ring.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes so much sense
Yeah.
that, we're engaged. And, honey, I just got back from this trip from France, and looky here.
Here's another thing.
Look about me garnering your favor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways,
Well,
it's a bit of a
anyway.
side tangent, but,
Yeah, but,
I guess the point is that Al-Fayed certainly had the means to orchestrate this. He knew where they were going. He employed the man who crashed the car. He could have easily dosed Henri with something, causing him to be more inebriated than he was.
So now
could've-
in this series, he wants Dodi to get killed?
Well, in that instance, right?
No, he wants to scare them.
Well,
It's not intentionally killing them, but let's scare the holy living bleep out of them
he could have.
so that Diana leaves.
Yeah, and he could have just said to Henri, like, hey, could you scare them a whole lot on your way over there, and we'll see if Diana kind of bolts, and things got out of control. Maybe he didn't know that Henri was inebriated in any way, and Henri took it, like, to the extreme. There was ample time and ability for Al-Fayed to have planned something. He was one of the only people who really knew where Diana and Dodi were headed, right? He could have organized for a white Fiat Uno to be in the place in the way that Henri was
So
taking
that's
them.
pretty dramatic.
It's
plan.
dramatic. It's absolutely dramatic. But I think that at the very least, we owe it to mention that. I don't genuinely think that there's good motive. I don't genuinely think that Al-Fayed would have had his oldest son, who he probably just adored, killed. But I think that while we're mentioning all these other crazy, ludicrous things, we may as well mention this one as well.
What the hell? I mean,
Yeah.
I think that, it might have been too. I mean, look at this. Maybe he felt like his Diana was a tart, and that Dodi was bringing dishonor upon the family.
It's all, you know. There's
and it was
so
an
many
honor killing. You know,
you can find a lot of reasons, and I don't personally find any merit in any of them. But
no, not really.
There you go. So that's, I think, our last theory.
I'm kind of doubting that he did it.
I agree.
That's our last theory?
Yeah, I don't think.
Thank God.
I also I don't think that any of those are awesome theories.
No.
To be fair.
I have one more theory. It was a shadowy coalition of regular guys who were really, really sick of hearing about Diana.
No.
So they decided to opt.
Nope, that's definitely not it.
No.
That's definitely not it, sir.
I have to say that the biggest mystery for me in this whole thing is seriously the whole Diana obsession. Always left me cold and always made me wonder what the hell.
I think a lot of
find it so fascinating about
it's
this.
a cultural thing, though, Joe. We're in the U.S. We're in the Western states.
Yeah.
We don't get that.
No.
But it is a total cultural thing. Like, all of Britain got into it, and then it spread from there.
I'm not saying that the Brits are nuts or anything like that.
No.
I know
why
in
is
America.
it Diana, is what you're saying,
Diana.
right?
People in America went berserk for Diana. I mean, we heard about nothing else. It wasn't just the Brits that went crazy for Diana.
Well, I think that part of what happened is people ignored the fact that she was a lady, right? She was from a well-off family. Her story was kind of billed as a rags to riches Cinderella story.
Cinderella. But
and I think people really bought into that.
Yeah.
It wasn't true.
No. But even so, the thing about it is that it's one thing to package something like that into a 90-minute, 2-hour movie. It's another thing to package it into 20 years of tabloid crap. I mean, which is what people did, and I never understood it. That why people were even remotely interested in Diana or the royal family.
So if you know
why,
for
me it was a mystery. I mean,
yeah.
If you know why, send us a letter or an email.
Know, please. Yeah. I don't like any of these theories.
No.
I'm left wanting.
I think that it's just car crash. I mean, they happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate, and we won't know ever.
And by the way, Paris, put some friggin' guardrails in that tunnel.
For real, though.
I mean, seriously.
Dude,
seriously.
What the F is going on with your roadway system in that one tunnel?
Uh-huh.
If you can't tell, we're tired now.
We're tired and cranky.
We're getting cranky and grouchy, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up.
Yeah, because I did all the things that we're trying to come up with not to swear.
Yeah. So some of the links to our research will be on our website. That's thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. You can stream us there. You can also find us on iTunes, which is probably where you found us. If you are finding us on iTunes, please leave us a comment and a rating, and don't forget to subscribe. You can stream us on just a crazy amount of the streaming services. I think we're on almost all of them now. In fairness, you probably know where you're finding us because you're listening to this episode, and you've made it to the end. Somehow.
It took them 3 days, but they made it to the end of this episode.
Yeah.
If this is your first episode, by the way, the other ones usually aren't quite so long.
They're not so long. Yeah.
Please, God, no.
You may or may not have already connected with us on social media. We are on Facebook. We have a group and a page. You can find us, friend us, like us. We are also on Twitter. We sometimes post some things about things on Twitter. We're thinking sideways, not thinking sideways. And then you can also always send us an email. We get lots of emails. Send us a suggestion, comments, concerns. If you're an expert in something, send us that. The email address is thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget, we also have merchandise, swag, if you will, shirts, phone cases,
all kinds
night
of
lights
stuff.
You can find the link to that on our website, thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. It's on the right-hand side, right above the donate button.
Whoa.
With all of that being said,
are we actually done?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Joe just said it all.
He did.
All right, guys, we got to get out of here.
Yeah. Ta-ta. Till
Love
next
you.
week.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, this is Joe. I've got a new podcast project for you that I'm doing with my friend Vincent. Alas, there's no Steve, no Devin, so this is not Thinking Sideways. It's a new podcast called The Shocking Details. Check out our website at www.theshockingdetails.com. And of course, we're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and everywhere else. But I wanted to say this, we were messing around with some different audio gear for this one. And the sound quality isn't quite the best, but rest assured, in the future, episodes will sound a lot better. So, enjoy.
Featuring Joe from Thinking Sideways podcast and filmmaker Vincent Caldelli. This is The Shocking Details.
Yes, that is correct, Joe. I'm here on the banks of the Puget Sound where a mystery is unfolding tonight. After an emergency beachside landing, software impresario and Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates has been reported missing, and things only get stranger from there. Apparently, Mr. Gates was aboard his Learjet returning from a conference in British Columbia, surrounded by business associates, when he excused himself to use the plane's restroom. A few minutes later, his personal assistant went to check on him and found that he was not in the washroom at the back of the airplane, nor was he anywhere aboard the craft. A massive search is underway at this time, but as speculations and rumors swirl, authorities admit they are no closer to locating the billionaire's whereabouts.
So imagine that one day you pick up the paper and it tells you that somebody really rich and famous has just disappeared. Say Bill Gates. And by the way, Bill Gates didn't just disappear while he was on his way to the Quickie Mart for a pack of smokes like most people do. No, he actually vanished, as you heard, from his corporate Learjet in mid-flight, and nobody else in the plane even saw it or heard it happen.
I mean, that sounds impossible.
It sure does, but something like this actually did happen. Somebody vanished from his corporate jet about 90 years ago.
Alfred Lowenstein was one of the richest guys in the world at this time, and he had to relieve himself. And this is 1928. He rises from his seat, and he walked back to the back of the plane where the restroom was housed. And he passes his business associate, Arthur Hodges. He saw him lumber toward the back to the rear of the craft, the English Channel shooting by underneath him, his secretaries and his loyal valet, Fred Baxter. They all see him. They all see him go, but just like that, Alfred Lowenstein, financier, innovator, philanthropist, and one very rich fellow is gone.
Just like that. Vamonos.
And this was on a warm July night in 1928.
Over the English Channel. When he didn't return after 10 or 15 minutes, Mr. Baxter, the valet, went to check on his employer, Mr. Lowenstein. He found that the head was empty. There was quite literally not any sign of Lowenstein aboard this plane, which was frankly. Baxter made his way to the cockpit and handed a note to the pilot telling him that Mr. Lowenstein had disappeared. Yes, the impossible had happened. He had vanished somehow off of a plane.
So let's back up. Who vanished? Who was Alfred Lowenstein? What in his biography could have left so many theories in the wake of his vanishing?
Well, Mr. Lowenstein was born in Brussels in 1877. By 1914, he had established a successful bank and made extensive investments in electric power and artificial silk, which were two new and very growing industries at that time. In 1926, he founded International Holdings and Investments Limited, which was kind of almost a venture capital company. It raised large amounts of money from investors who wanted to climb on board the Lowenstein money-making train. So at the time of his death, Lowenstein was one of the richest men in the world.
In 1908, he married Madeleine Masson, who was from a prominent Belgian family. She was beautiful, elegant, sophisticated, but reportedly not very warm or emotional. And the marriage wasn't passionate. But Alfred and Madeleine made the most of their arrangement. For Alfred, a trophy wife and a male heir, and for Madeleine, stability and, more money than she could have ever dreamt of.
Lots and lots of money.
Doesn't hurt. May not have been the stuff of romance novels, but I don't think either had much to complain about.
No, reportedly they actually got along quite well. Yeah. But back to our plane ride, when Mr. Baxter, the valet, looked in the head, as I said, Lowenstein wasn't there, which was strange. There's nowhere else he could have been. The plane is essentially divided into four sections: a cockpit, passenger compartment, the head, which is also where the entrance to the plane is, the entry door, and beyond that, the cargo area, which cannot be accessed from inside the plane. So there was literally nowhere he could have gone. And so when Baxter found the empty head, he went forward, as I said, and handed a note to the pilot, Donald Drew, saying he had disappeared.
At this point, the aircraft is still over the English Channel, about 5 miles north of Dunkirk, France.